Hi there, I am Keith Norris with KPI Fire, and I'm going to give you a quick video here of how to use the metrics feature inside KPI Fire. Metrics in KPI Fire are one of the three main record types. Goals, projects, and metrics are those three, and metrics are basically the data element. When we look at this little triangle here with goals being what we want to accomplish, metrics are how we're going to measure it. Projects are the actual work to get done. So I'm speaking specifically about the metrics area in KPI Fire. Now, metrics in KPI Fire are going to be these blue tiles, and you can do a couple of things with these. You click right on the tile of an existing metric to open it up. In some of the views, you can drag the metrics around, so I can drag and reorder the metrics by clicking in the center area. The bottom of the metric tile will show any linked goals. So you see a number here for linked goals. You would see a number down below for linked metrics and a number down below for linked projects. And you can click these to see those relationships. In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to just a couple of the features with the metric. So I'm going to quickly create a metric. I'll call it yield, and I'm just going to call this total because I'm going to create some sub-metrics underneath that. I'm going to create it in the operations department. I'm going to make it visible to all. These is where you can control the visibility of the metrics. Okay, and so here I've got my yield metric, and I can open up my metric, and I've got a couple of views here. So on this charts tab, I don't have any data in this metric, so it looks empty on these charts. But in the data tab, this is where I can add the data for my metric. So if I wanted to say my actual was 101, my target was 120, my begin green zone was 90 and 80 and 70, then a couple of neat things that you can do here in the data tab is you can copy. So you can either drag that corner and copy down. You can also use the Control C or Command C. I'm on a Mac, so it's Command C. If you're on Windows, I believe it's Control C, and paste those values down, or you can click and drag. You can export your data from the metrics. You can also import data to metrics. I believe we have a separate video on importing metrics that you may want to take a look at. So there's some options here in the data tab. You can change the range of data that you want to enter. You can go all the way down to hourly data. Keep in mind that if you're when you set up your metric, you want to decide what time frame you want to set it up on. So you can go all the way down to hourly. My recommendation is usually to go with monthly data. Let's see here. You can summarize the data with different views here. These are good things to experiment with, and you can see the differences for each of those. You can change the format that's displayed on your metrics using the number, percentage, or currency. You can also change the number of decimal points that are displayed on your metric here. I'm in 2018 right now. If I wanted to view the data for 2019, I can change the calendar year here by selecting a different year. I've got a few options in the way that the data displays. So I can either sum through the current period, or I can sum all periods that are displayed. If you want to show like your progress towards the total for the year in a view like this, you would say sum all. You can also choose average or most recent. So that is what controls what is displayed on this summary chart right here, and that's what's going to be displayed over here as well. Okay, so in this example, what we want to do is we want to create two sub-metrics underneath this yield metric. So what I'm going to do, there's two ways to do this, and I'm going to show you both of them. The first way is I'm on this tile view of the metric, and I click on the linked metrics down here. So now it's showing me that I'm drilled down on this yield metric. I could open it up by clicking the expand, and I'm going to click the new metric here, and we're going to call this one yield in plant A. Now I can also just associate it with plant A, and I don't necessarily have to put plant A in the name of the metric. That's just the way I like to personally set it up, so that when I'm looking at a list of my metric names, it's real clear that that's plant A versus my total. Now I want to create a plant B metric also that's underneath this. So for this one, I'm going to show you the other way of doing this. The other way of doing it is by opening up the tile and then clicking the plus button right here, and you can click Add Metric here. So I'm going to call this Yield in Plant B. I'm going to put this in Plant B, click Add. So now what I have is I have two submetrics underneath my primary metric. You can see the submetrics when I open up the detail view. This is what we'll call the metric detail page. On the metric detail page, we talked a little bit about the data here. The team tab is going to show who has access and who has control to edit and update. The owner of a metric is going to be able to delete it. Only the owner can delete it. The editor can add data to the data tab, and then viewers can see it. The alert has to do with who will get notified if data is plugged in that is outside of the control range. So in this case, in April, because this was red, and in March because this was yellow, anybody that was on the team tab and had the alert box checked would have received an email. You can also control which department owns each of these metrics. You can control the visibility. This is going to determine who can see this metric. So if I want to select individual departments, I can choose, or I can select or unselect the departments, or I can just choose visible to all. Our default recommendation is visible to all for most data to promote visibility. You've got a history record. Inside this history record, let's say you make a change that maybe you regret, or somebody goes and makes a change and you want to find out who did it. You can revert data from any one of your updates in this metric data. This is a really nice feature. And then you can have some notes in here, maybe notes about how you calculate this. So some notes about how you're calculating the report might be interesting to keep track of as well. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to notice, just because I've connected two metrics, so now I have yield and I have these two linked metrics. Both of my linked metrics have 0 values in them, and my upper metric is where I've plugged data in. When I open up this parent metric, I've got some options here. I can tell it to use the sub-metric data to determine the parent data by summing it or by creating an average. So let's do this. We're gonna say we want to sum the sub-metric data. It's telling me that it's going to overwrite the data, because if I'm calculating my parent metric based on the children metric, then it's going to wipe out anything that you have plugged into the parent metric. So let's do that, and then what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go into our two child metrics and put some data in there. I like to use 101 as test data just because it rolls up nicely. Okay, so let's plug that in, and let's say we're going to use most recent. That's the way we want this data to show. So if September is my most recent value that I have in there, it's going to show through September. Alright, so we've got plant A in there. We're going to open up plant B. We're going to plug some data in for plant B. Alright, and then we're going to go back up to our top level, and we're going to look at our parent metric. In our parent metric, notice how this one is saying sum through current period. So it's basically counting all of these. And I'm going to change this to most recent, just so that it matches the children metric that I have underneath it. So now you'll notice that when I was saying sub all, it's showing me 1818 out of 2160. And as I say most recent, as I save that, it's going to show me 202, because 202 is the sum, of course, of the children metric that belong to this one. Now if you ever want to disconnect that parent from the children metric, you can come in here and you can say do not sub some metric data, and that will break that chain between the calculation change. Your metrics will still be connected, and again the relationship shows here in that they are linked metrics right there. While we're on the topic of metrics, I want to come over here to the bowling view, and so we'll show the bowling chart view. So in this bowling chart view, this is a nice way to be able to show the data from all of these. I'm clicking here on this little metric icon to display the data from the children metrics up to the parent metric right there. Let's see, on the topic of metrics, want to quickly discuss linking metrics to projects. So when we have a project, there's two ways to do this. From the Charter tab, you'll notice that there is a linked metrics box. So from right here, you can click that plus button, and this will show you a list of metrics. This will tell you if there's a filter that's been applied. If there is a filter that's been applied, you may not be seeing all of your data. So if I wanted to link this project to my yield, I could link it to one or more of my yield metrics. There also, at this point, is a linked metrics tab. This tab may end up going away at some point, but this will show the metrics that are linked to this project as well. And if I want to unlink it, I can do that from here as well. So I can unlink that metric. Let's go over here to my goals. I'm going to take a look at my goals, and let's say I want to link one of my metrics to one of my goals. I can do that with this plus button here, and this will allow me to create a new metric. I don't want to create a new metric. I want to link it to my existing metric, so I click there. And let's say I want to link this goal to my plant A metric, and I can link it to one or more. And so my linked metrics will also show connected to my goals. So metrics can be connected to goals, they can be connected to projects, they can be connected to sub-metrics underneath them. This should give you a pretty good overview of some of the metric functionality. Feel free to take a look at some of the other videos, especially the importing and exporting metric videos, to learn a little bit more about metrics. Thanks. Have a great day.